What are you laughing at about?
I disagree. I can't
Wait, well, okay. Name a soundtrack then.
name a soundtrack that fits a movie better.
That's better. Name a soundtrack that you like.
Um, hmm.
Exactly. You can't list.
I absolutely can.
What?
It's all about context. See. Hello and welcome back to the J&Z podcast. My name is Jace Van Ort,
And I'm Zeth Nakla.
and today we are going to be looking at Transformers the movie. It's the movie for the original kids cartoon show, and I am not well versed in the Transformers verse. I barely even remember the big movies, but this movie still impressed me, and I'm still kind of shocked.
It's the 86 one. This is the one that is highly underrated that not a lot of people talk about nowadays. And at the time, it was controversial for many reasons.
Yeah, I could totally see that. But yeah, up until this movie, I've always had a hard time kind of understanding what people saw in, like, what was it? Like Transformers, movies like that just made to sell toys. Because I felt it's like, they're always kind of the same. There's no, like, story to them. But movies like this, where there's actual, well, not really, but like there's actual impact on characters and plot, it kind of makes you see how much people cared about these characters. And I'm sure you can tell it better than I, but I thought this movie did a great job. It wasn't a complicated movie, but it wasn't needlessly complicated. I felt it had all the proper story beats and it was very shocking for a movie of its kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a kids movie, it has swearing in it.
Once, yep.
A couple times. Nothing too bad, but I mean, it does. It's dark. There are many people that die in this movie, robots at least.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little graphic. And I don't know, for just a children's movie that like maybe you could recommend to a 5-year-old, it might freak them out a bit.
Yeah, especially if they watched the original show as kids did at the time.
Yeah, so
do you want to give a rundown of the plot synopsis?
Basically, it's in the middle of the original Transformers show. This happened right smack in the middle of it when Transformers Mania was happening. Basically what happens is it's kind of a continuation. The Decepticons start a battle with the Autobots, and they have to fend them off.
Yeah, well, not really.
That's the beginning synopsis.
Yeah, the beginning.
So it starts off very what you would expect.
Yeah.
There's a battle that starts. People get killed. But what you didn't realize was a lot of the Autobots that get zapped, or the Decepticons, those are not throwaway characters.
Right, I thought it's like, it's a bland-looking Autobot,
So remember in the beginning when the Decepticons get on the plane, and there's like 5 or 6 of them controlling it, and they just shoot them?
Yeah.
Those were major Autobots.
Mm.
So any Autobot that died in this wasn't a throwaway character, because you have to realize this was years upon years of build-up from the TV show and a toy lineup. So kids were attached to these characters, and to all of a sudden just 2 seconds dead, that'd be like if all of a sudden Luke Skywalker just got shot at the beginning of The Force Awakens.
Yeah. So I'm guessing death was not common in the show. Would it be like,
I mean, it was a kids show.
Decepticons? Maybe at least it's like, I don't know how it worked. Was it always just Autobots versus Decepticons, or would it be like a new foe is going into the city? And
it was kind of what you would think.
Okay.
It wasn't anything too crazy, so that's why the movie is even more crazy. Especially right after the beginning, because the main guy, Optimus Prime, dies and does not come back for the remainder of the movie.
He does not come back from that, no.
He dies in literally the first 10 minutes of the movie and does not come back.
Yeah, that actually left me stunned.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it, because I knew, like, at that point I realized that, like, once they, like, turned like a charcoal gray, they're not coming back. They, like, fall apart.
You thought there was going to be some MacGuffin where, oh yeah, he'll come back, no problem.
Granted, your dad did say that he just kind of went back to the show, like pretended it never happened.
No, he comes back. It's like a big thing in the show.
Oh.
It's like called The Return of Optimus Prime or something like that. It was like a 4-part special.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that we got kind of the... Oh, wait, we didn't get the plot out of the way. What happens after Optimus dies? There's a threat.
Yeah, so Unicron, this giant planet-eating...
planet that turned into a robot, but...
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a giant transformer that is a planet that turns into a giant transformer. It's a little complicated, but just is on an in-course for Earth, I believe.
Yep.
And they have to stop it.
Because he basically blew up Cybertron, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he also pretty much ends up killing, what's his name? The Decepticon leader. Megatron.
He upgrades him, basically.
Yeah, and kind of turns him into his minion.
Yeah. Which comes to one of my favorite voice moments. Leonard Nimoy is... Let me look it up. There's just way too many things. I want to say Galvatron, which Leonard Nimoy is such a good voice for him.
Yeah, it is. And I know this all sounds kind of confusing, but basically from this point on, Unicron keeps eating planets and having the Decepticons now under his control go to Earth, blow up the Earth base, fight. But the battles are really cool, especially for the time. They're pretty colorful. They're pretty compelling, and you never know at this point. Like, oh my gosh, Optimus Prime actually died. So at this point, every fight is super intense because you don't know what's coming next. You don't know who could at any given moment just get blasted, and people get blasted. So it's like,
yeah. So then you have So basically, what happens is after a leader of the Autobots dies, there's something in their chest. I always forget the name.
The
Matrix core. And they take it out of Optimus Prime's chest and they stick it in Centennial Prime, I believe.
No, it's like Ultra Magnus.
Ultra Magnus, and he turns into...
He just Ultra Magnus with something in him. I don't think he didn't change names.
Okay, so yeah, Ultra Magnus.
So he's the leader now.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they have to go to various planets. They crash land. The Decepticons are after them. But there's always fighting. There's always something interesting happening during the movie. And it's not always cheap. I mean, there's some really corny jokes, but that's to be expected. But I felt that for a movie about a kid's toy designed to sell kids stuff, it was just so well done. And finally getting everybody together that's left to go fight Unicron, that was kind of a cool ending. I liked what they did with it. I liked that they finally figured out how to use the Matrix to save themselves and everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I didn't know there was so many characters. Because, I mean, there's so many.
This was season 1. You know how toys have almost a seasons, okay, this toy lineup is 20 characters,
yeah, and
then the next lineup is 20 more.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first 3 lineups, and I believe so that's how long you had 3 years of Transformers in that time, and with the cartoon and such. It'd be if they made a He-Man movie and in the first 5 seconds they kill He-Man.
Isn't that what they did?
No.
In the show?
Oh yeah, what to do with So what happens is with this movie, you know why they made it? It's kind of bad. You're gonna maybe hate them, but they wanted to make the new Transformers lineup.
They wanted to make kids cry, I hear.
No, they wanted to make the new Transformers lineup.
But people didn't like that.
Well, why have it where it's a complicated thing about,
passing it on
when you can just kill off half the Autobots and have all the new toys?
Yeah, that's true. But I'd see it didn't go over well with the audience.
No, there was a kid in Michigan, I believe, that had a heart attack or some panic attack because when Optimus Prime died. It's some news article. I don't know if it's true or not, but I know that happened. Some other kids had like reactions sort of like that in the theater because it was just such a shocking thing.
Yeah, I believe it.
But as in terms of if you can get past that, this is probably one of the best children's movies you can watch.
Oh, it was really interesting. Even though I knew nothing about the series, I had a good time watching it. I was able to kind of understand, that these, at least, the more important characters were kind of obvious that they were part of the show pretty heavily. But it was just kind of jarring, But I don't mind that. It's good that a movie kind of surprises you sometimes, and especially not in a bad way.
Yeah. A lot of people don't like this movie because of that reason. They kill off half the Autobots that are important or that are sort of like a side thing.
I don't mind. It makes it so it's not boring.
Exactly. But what's cool about this movie is that almost every single major Autobot and Decepticon like that you would know gets their time in the sun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like, even if it's just like a 5-second thing, like they'll say like, oh, go Starscream, and then Starscream will do something for like 2 seconds. But he gets his time in the sun. Another thing that is just so good about this movie is that the soundtrack. This soundtrack for this movie is probably my favorite soundtrack to any movie of all time. You take the lyrical soundtrack or the instrumental soundtrack, the whole thing is just absolutely incredible for a kids movie. They went above and beyond.
It's definitely good for a kids movie, and they certainly. My only thing is, it was definitely of its time, and although they're fun, they have like these really cool these like 80s like anthem songs. They're fun, but they're hard to take serious when you actually listen to what they're saying.
No,
so I was like,
no,
we got the power.
Yeah, that's the touch. You got the touch.
You got the touch. It's always, but they're always like talking about, it's like, we're gonna do it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so cool because you know how like okay, let's take Rocky for example. Like 3 and 4 have Eye of the Tiger and I forget the one that's in 4, but it's like the two worlds collide, rival nations. But this movie, it's like one of those songs that's just like really good that you would remember maybe for like one movie, but it's got like 5 or 6 of those in this.
They do, but I never could get over in anything they're in just how corny they are.
No, they're so good.
Corny.
You got the touch. Nothing's gonna stand in our way. Dare. You have they're all done by a bunch of no names too. So Stan Bush is probably like the one who did the touch and Dare. But then again, like he's a nobody. The only one that you would know is Dare to Be Stupid by Weird Al. He was remember the one where they're on the planet with the junkyard with the motorcycles?
Yeah.
That's the song that plays Dare to Be Stupid. But even the instrumental one, like when Optimus Prime dies and like the music swells and such, like that's really good. There's one when they're fighting and it's called Instruments of Destruction. That's really good as well. But this is my favorite soundtrack to any movie, period. I will argue that to death.
I can't say that, but I will say it does fit, and it was memorable. I remember it, I always thought it was kind of silly, but you know what? The show's kind of silly too. I mean, there's some. It's a kid's show. It's all right.
Yeah. So, it does get serious again because once Optimus Prime dies, it gets a little goofy again.
Yeah.
Still a little more shocking because of that death, but then they turn Megatron into Galvatron, and that's a big deal. Then all of a sudden, Ultra Magnus, who is the leader of the Autobots, he dies as well. Yeah,
but not like dies. You can tell because he didn't turn black. But they put him back. But yeah, he does like blow up like 2 minutes after Optimus told him you got to carry this on.
Yeah. And then at the end, you have this nobody that everybody kind of doesn't like in the movie called Hot Rod. Like the kid in in the group, so to speak.
Oh.
You have some that like him.
Was he an Autobot, or was he? You're talking about the kid?
No, okay, so remember Hot Rod?
Yeah.
The one that becomes the main guy who beats Galvatron at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about him.
Okay.
He's like the kid of the Autobots, kind of. Like, he's like the cool shot, but
yeah.
you have the old timer that doesn't really like him, but then grows to like him at the end.
I see. I kind of forgot that he's the one that beat him.
Yeah,
because he got the Matrix and he pulled it apart and it like saved everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is kind of silly. I mean, you know,
that's a very silly moment because you have Hot Rod, who is an awesome souped-up sports car, but then anytime it's like anytime someone gets the Matrix core and is like the leader of the Autobots, they have to turn into a semi then.
Oh,
so then Hot Rod at the end, when he saves everyone, he becomes Optimus Prime like semi.
Does he? I didn't even catch that.
Yeah,
because there's nothing to really look for.
It's like brief. But if you catch it, it's like, wait, he turns into a semi now?
That's kind of lame.
Yeah. But like I said, it was just so then new toys could come out.
But that's okay, because it actually ended up making a way better movie than if they didn't do that.
Yeah.
I would not have wanted... I mean, it would have been kind of boring if it's just like, the Autobots get attacked. They fight back. They lose. They come back. They win. You know... There are no consequences either way. It's just, you know, it's kind of a boring movie.
Yeah, and what's awesome about this is it's a very short movie, too. It's only an hour and a half, or...
It's an hour and a half. Maybe an hour 45.
Let me look. 85 minutes.
Yeah, hour and a half. Hour 35.
So, there's a lot. Like, it's just a really good movie for a kid's film, for a... hour and a half movie. It accomplishes a lot without having someone like you who's never watched the original cartoon or doesn't remember any of the newer stuff. I mean, you still kept up with the plot very well, you said.
Yeah, it made me appreciate like Transformers, like all these cartoons. I learned that there's more to it. They actually flesh out characters, and movies like this really can highlight those connections, I feel. Mm-hmm. So it gives something like that meaning. So I enjoyed this movie tremendously. I thought it was a great piece of history. Not history, I don't want to make you sound too old, but like, it just kind of shows how shows used to be and why they were popular like that. So
yeah, it was pretty sad about this movie because it's so good, but it was a box office failure. So the movie,
really?
Yeah, it only cost $5 to $6 million and it only made $2 to $5 million.
You'd think everybody would go see it because of the craze.
Well, it wasn't. If I remember correctly, what my dad was saying, it wasn't advertised that well.
Oh.
It was like maybe one trailer for one movie that came out that year. And then maybe if you bought the toys, but the toys were expensive.
Yeah. You think they'd show it in the show or something like afterwards, or like advertise it on that network and get the kids, but I don't know.
Yeah. So the reason this movie was made, it's saying, is because Hasbro's agenda demanded a product refresh.
Oh.
So that's why they killed off half the characters. And then also, you have it where critics hated it at the time.
Why? I don't see any issues.
It's because
with
it's because you have a bunch of old men that are watching it that don't understand. You know what I mean? It's a kid's movie. It's like, I don't know, like the new Super Mario Brothers movie that will come out. Probably critics will hate it, but if it's made for gamers and people,
I'll probably hate it.
Maybe, but at the same time, if you like it and a critic hates it,
but I'm sure. I mean? Oh yeah, I'm sure any little kid's gonna watch it and think it's the best movie ever. It's no fault to them.
So they hated it because it was a thin plot with just blatant advertising, and then violent action that was appealing only towards children. They said, which isn't true because
I thought it was cool.
Yeah, and there's grown men that still love this movie, but at the same time, they were kids when it came out.
Yeah, but if I kind of like it nowadays, like if I actually like it and I have no connection to it, it actually has its own legs. And if you can kind of think about it, a lot of people talk about, for its time. I never really buy into it too much. The whole, for its time, I was like, I don't really care. It's just like, is it good or not? And this one I think is pretty good.
Yeah, and so then it gained a cult following once Michael Bay's Transformers came out. And many critics now love this
And don't like the other ones.
over Michael Bay's Transformers.
Yeah, I have no idea how they got from that to that, from Michael Bay's to the cartoon. It was such a weird direction.
Yeah,
But we might go over those some other time. Because I don't remember. I remember liking them as a kid, but I can't imagine they hold up all that well. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all the thoughts I had on it. What about you?
I just got to say, one thing I appreciate about the newer Transformers movies is a lot of people don't know the original.
Right.
So a lot of people love the newer Transformers movies, which are awful. I don't care what anyone says. The first movie is okay, but after that, it just became a series full of bad questioning issues that was just irritating. You take characters like Hot Rod from that movie, and he would be British in the last one. I'm not kidding. They massacred
Seriously?
him. I'm not kidding.
But like, why? It's a simple like voice actor.
It's Michael Bay. He just does whatever the heck
Michael
he wants.
Bay's like, all right, how can I get as many explosions into this movie as I can?
I know. And so, Bumblebee comes out. That movie.
I didn't like the movie. I thought it was really corny, but I liked the way they designed the Autobots.
Me too.
That was cool.
I went to the theater just because of that reason.
And it looked way better.
It did, because Transformers is a very simplistic. Transformers looks better when it's not really complex and complicated. That's how a lot of different things work.
Yeah, it was a good middle ground. Like, it wasn't like scary almost like the original, but it looked like almost it had a lot more to it.
You could tell a lot better when something transformed. So like when Bumblebee went from his robot form to his beetle form, it was like two things. It was like you twist, he's a beetle.
It was good.
And it looked awesome. Way better.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. Like the first movie had some cool moments. Like I'll admit the part when Optimus Prime comes in and Sam and his girlfriend are looking up and it's this complicated shot where it spins around up. That's cool. But it got old after a while and dumb, and Transformers forgot who it was.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So then when Bumblebee comes in and it's a new director and a fresh approach, I'm with you. The story was bland. It was just a girl.
It felt like a kid's movie.
Well, that's not a bad thing, but it was the thing we see all the time.
But it was a very boring story.
Yeah, I'll be with you on that. That being said, the fight sequence, like the beginning when it's on,
the beginning and end were kind of neat.
Yeah, the beginning of Bumblebee when it was on, Cybertron, and all the Autobots are there.
That was cool.
From this movie, you even had like the female robot that everybody forgets. And everyone's transforming into like really simplistic ones. You have Soundwave is actually having cassettes come out of him, and he looks like Soundwave actually. That was awesome. And then the ending, once Bumblebee had to fight the two Corvettes and the ones that turn into muscle cars and then planes. Yeah. That was cool because that was a toy as well, where you'd have it where it transformed into 3 different things instead of 2. Some toys did that, so that was super cool. But then it was cool because the fights weren't super complex, were a bunch of parts moving all over the place.
No, and I feel like the original series, they were too simple. Like, it was a product of its time. You know, they're not going to animate all these little details, but they almost seemed like blocks.
But that's what Transformers should be. It should be where it's like blocks.
But there's like nothing to them. Like this, like red, gray, red, blue, red. Like that's the auto. Yeah. I think if it was made today, it would be a bit more well drawn. But it's okay because it's a kids movie from the 80s. It was totally different, way harder to animate stuff back then. So it's not. It was fine.
I'm with you. I
they're just a little they're extremely basic, I feel.
Well, that's good. I like basic designs when it comes to robots, when it comes to all sorts of things. Like,
yeah, not robots. Like characters, sure.
Well,
they're people,
I understand,
but like robots are supposed to be kind of cool, and these are kind of like
no. And there should be like a little more. Like, I think Bumblebee hit that perfect middle ground, is what I'm saying. You had it where the characters were complex looking at the same time of you could tell where the door of a car was. You could tell where their tire was, or apart from the hood, for instance. That's what I'm saying is good. I'm not saying it has to be completely like Minecraft characters, but
No, I'm saying the
have
show
it
was
where
like
it's
that.
the original design while not stepping on it completely, because that's what Michael Bay's Transformers did.
Yeah.
It's like Voltron. If they ever make a Voltron movie, you have to keep the lions square, boxy looking.
I think Voltron did it better with that, at least. I think the lions had a bit more to them.
Yeah, well, that was a Japanese anime at the same. This was an American one where America didn't pour as much resources into.
I always thought that
That.
the American ones were smoother, but just not as detailed.
Well, it's because we always run at a higher frame rate than animation,
Hmm.
Japanese animation.
Well, cool. Overall, really solid movie experience. I was expecting it to be, Kid Town USA,
No.
beg your parents for pocket change, but no, it actually was a compelling story, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite cartoons of all time, and it has my favorite soundtrack of all time. Nothing has come close to topping it.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at about?
I disagree. I can't
Well, okay. Name a soundtrack then.
name a soundtrack that fits a movie better.
That's better. Name a soundtrack that you like. Exactly. You can't list.
I absolutely can.
What?
It's all about context. See, Mario Galaxy, of course.
I'm saying a movie.
You
dork.
just said anything. I said movies, and you said anything.
What?
Okay, movies.
Movies.
Have you?
Exactly.
I can think of really good
Okay.
soundtracks.
What's the soundtrack?
Okay, like the Batman, like Top Gun, like
Okay. Top Gun was good.
Top Gun was good.
Batman was good.
Batman was good. Yeah.
Name another one that didn't come out this year.
Okay, I will.
That was the whole soundtrack was good.
How about every movie that you ever remember? Star Wars.
Yeah, but sometimes Star Wars music is the whole soundtrack isn't as good.
What?
There's like the main theme and like a few other soundtracks.
All the
that are
desert
good.
stuff. Everything was perfect about those.
Yeah.
They're wonderful.
But the whole soundtrack's not the most amazing thing in the world.
I know what you're saying, but I can't think of that many movies with bad soundtracks either. I mean,
Yeah,
so.
it's hard.
But yeah. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day.
Can't believe you said the soundtrack was just okay.